Welcome back. My name is Cindy, and on this channel, I help you to pinpoint ways on how to improve your romantic and parental relationships. But in this video, I will be sharing my thoughts about Married at First Sight Season 12, Episode 11. So be sure to like this video, subscribe, and click that notification bell. Okay guys, so I'm doing things a little different this week. I'm having a really stressful, crazy, chaotic week. I won't have time to edit, and so I didn't want to skip a week. It's the 1 month anniversary episode, which means these marriages, or lack thereof, are halfway through the process, and all of these couples are basically stunting. I am seeing BS with all of these couples at this point. So let's get started. First, we have Eric and Virginia. Is it me, or is Eric trying to convince himself that he and Virginia have a perfect marriage? He is constantly saying how they are doing great, but they don't agree on anything. Eric and Virginia met up with Ryan and Clara for a double date. They tell Ryan and Clara that every day things are getting better and better, which is a straight up lie. They can't have one full conversation without having a disagreement. And instead of bringing resolve, they just sweep things under the rug and get back to their lovey-dovey ways, which is not how to build an authentic relationship. They come across very fake to me. Virginia set up a picnic for Eric, and she mentions that Eric is constantly saying, "I love you." It's the most "I love you" she's ever gotten, which Eric just be doing the most. During the picnic, the topic of living in Eric's house comes up, and Virginia is firm about not wanting to live with him. Eric is offended, and he explains that it makes more sense for them to live at his place because he owns and she's renting. He doesn't want to pay for 2 mortgages, but Virginia is not here for it. She started complaining about how she's not going to feel comfortable living at his place. There's no room for her pets, and making all kinds of excuses to suggest that they live in their own places until they can get a place together. And Eric is not on board with that. I mean, living in different homes as a married couple is not a good idea. Once again, there's no resolve, and they just put this issue on the back burner. I don't understand how they can just continue to put all of their issues on the back burner. So for their 1 month anniversary, Eric takes Virginia on his plane. He actually owns his own plane, and he expresses how passionate he is about flying and being a pilot. They were the only couples who exchanged gifts, and they gave each other some odd gifts. She gave him a sheet with her face on it, along with her dog, and he gave her a framed GPS location thing. I don't know, it's basically a GPS of their wedding location in numbers from the sky or whatever. Virginia didn't like it, but she acted like it was a great gift, and they talked about their worries about being hurt. And Eric told Virginia he has a unique trust for her, which sounds like BS. I mean, the girl is talking about living in her apartment. She likes to party. I don't see how Eric is going to trust any of that. So they're probably going to just continue to BS their way through this process. They are not a match to me, but I guess we'll see what happens. Next, we have Chris and Paige. I usually save them for last, but this week I just want to get them out of the way. So Paige has said multiple times that this relationship no longer serves her, but she continues to go back for more abuse. Why, Paige? I don't understand. In this episode, they meet up to play basketball as a way to get to know each other. And after playing basketball, they sat down and chatted. Chris asked her what her long-term goals were, and I don't believe she answered the question, but he was saying how he wants multiple businesses and he wants a family with kids, kids with an S, which is really, Chris, just go sit down somewhere. So while they're talking, Paige brought up his first engagement. He refused to tell her how long he was in that relationship, but he was 20 years old at the time and he felt like he wasn't ready for marriage. Duh, Chris, you're not even ready for marriage now. Chris seemed to have a pattern of on again, off again relationships. He seems to always want to reconnect and be back with an ex. It's just kind of like weird to me how he just gets in these relationships very short term, trying to jump into marriage. Like, he really needs to take the time to go to therapy and get to know what it is that he really wants, because he's out here trying to get married, but he is not ready for marriage and he's got a lot of growing up to do. So then they meet again for a pool date. It was really odd because they didn't go to a pool hall. The pool table seemed to be set up in Paige's apartment. The scene felt very staged. Chris comes over and he still has his suit on from work, and he decides he's going to play pool with the suit on. We hear Chris narrating in the background that he's starting to develop attraction for Paige, that she's beautiful and that she has a nice body. Of course, he had to throw in the body. I bet they're still getting it in. After the pool game, they sat down to chat. Chris tries to confront Paige because he says he's been calling her and she's not answering, and Paige is acting like she has such a life outside of Chris. So Chris acts like he's getting upset, and he tells her that they are not doing a good job at being spouses. I mean, Chris, when were you ever her spouse? And he also mentioned that she's not meeting his needs emotionally and blah, 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 blah. He also says, they have no connection and he's mentally checked out. He's been checked out the whole time. So I'm not even sure why they're even having this conversation. So Paige gets upset and she starts crying, and he doesn't try to console her. He's just looking at her real crazy. And so she decides to leave the apartment. And then we see that on the day of their anniversary, Paige is sitting in the apartment by herself, looking through the wedding photos, the video, and it's really sad. Like, during the episode, Paige has sat down with Haley and Bree, and she had told them about how Chris bought a car for the mother of his child. And Bree responded by saying, the baby isn't here yet, which was my thought last week. And Paige actually admitted that she's in love with the idea of marriage, and she's been holding on for dear life, trying to basically, I guess, convince Chris that they should be together. But I mean, I'm not sure what they're really doing, and it's just really ridiculous. At this point, they're just trying to continue to be on TV because their interactions are just toxic, are not genuine, and it doesn't even serve a purpose. So it's just annoying to continue to have them on the screen each week. Next, we have Jacob and Haley. They had a lady come over to do a chart reading and some tarot cards. The lady revealed that their life paths are actually compatible and that they both need to release the need to be in control. She also mentioned that Haley likes to have the upper hand, and I can kind of see that in Haley. When Haley sat down with the girls, she was saying how things are getting better and that they're sleeping in the same bed. And once again, it's like these people out in public are saying one thing, but then the reality of their marriage is completely different. So for their 1 month anniversary, they went to a winery, and while they were having dinner, Haley asked Jacob how he was feeling about their first month together. Jacob responded by letting her know he's trying to be positive and patient with her. Haley felt like Jacob was holding back, so she was pushing for him to give more detail. And so Jacob kept it 100. He was like, what are we going to actually vow to do differently? I mean, he feels like she looks past him. Like when they're in the room together, she doesn't really see him. And Haley started to get defensive, as she usually does. And he brought up how she seems to be disgusted when he tries to hug her. And he knows that basically she doesn't like him. And it felt like Haley was kind of gaslighting him because she was making it seem like what he was saying is not true. Like I said last week, even a blind man can see that Haley does not like Jacob. So I'm not sure why she's like acting like what he's saying was untrue. The problem with Haley is she has a hard time being honest and giving Jacob concrete things he can do to make her feel comfortable. She's like really vague, and then she expects him to go above and beyond, but Jacob sees right through her. She called him a stranger, and he said, "Don't worry, this is one stranger that you'll never have to see after decision day." And she was shocked that he said that. And he said they are basically dying a slow death until they get divorced. And I agree with him. I mean, and she's just trying to get through the process. I feel like this whole season is a slow death altogether. There's really no hope for Jacob and Haley at this point. And I think they're just ready to go their separate ways. Next, we have Ryan and Clara. At the beginning of the episode, Clara and Ryan were at his house, and Clara was saying that she needs room for her stuff. She basically wanted to get rid of all of Ryan's stuff outside of his, I think, lazy boy chair or something. She was basically talking his head off. Ryan seemed very overwhelmed. He didn't have much to say like usual. And so she just basically was saying where she's going to put this, how she's going to organize that, and blah, blah, blah. There is such a disconnect in this marriage that I just don't understand how they can continue to tell other people that they are doing well. And even when they were on the double date with Eric and Virginia, they were saying that things were going great, which is not true. Because, you know, once again, another couple who doesn't agree on a lot, but out in public, I guess they want to put on some kind of united front in trying to say how great their marriage is going. Ryan said that he does feel like he's married, but he never said how. And Eric and Virginia had shared with Ryan and Clara that they have exchanged I love yous. And so I think Virginia asked Ryan, you know, how long was his longest relationship? And he said about 2 years. And everybody at the table was pretty much surprised that he hadn't said I love you in that relationship. Ryan is strange. And in Clara's confessional, she was saying how she is low-key feeling some type of way because Eric and Virginia seem to be making progress, and she's just not sure that they will ever get there. For their 1 month anniversary, Ryan took Clara on a helicopter ride. And during the time that they were together, prior to the helicopter ride and even afterwards when they were having dinner, it was just very weird and uncomfortable. Like, they don't have much to talk about. Clara asked Ryan, you know, what were his highlights of the month? And he was just like, the whole thing. Like, just being with you and having you here is great. And it's just like, Ryan, for you to be so calculated, I don't understand why you always have a hard time answering questions in detail. So she was kind of sitting there, and Clara gives me the vibes that she is just going along to get along with Ryan, and she doesn't want to ruffle any feathers. She tries to say things that he wants to hear. She mentioned that they had a good month together. It's like, girl, you are miserable AF, so cut the BS. And they watched their wedding video, and during their vows, Clara had mentioned how she would call him on his BS, but she has not done that. She's just kind of going along and saying whatever Ryan wants to hear so she can, you know, I guess be a good wife. But she's very uncomfortable around him. I don't get any romantic vibes from them. I feel like they can potentially be good friends after this, but for them to keep saying how good their marriage is going, I just don't see it. Am I missing something, guys? Comment below and let me know what is it that they are doing that is so great in their marriage, because I'm completely confused. Last but not least, we have Vincent and Brianna. There's not much to say this week. They weren't on camera much. I think Vincent was probably in one scene. For their 1 month anniversary, Vincent surprised Brianna with a dinner date on a boat, and Before they had dinner, they sat and watched their wedding video together. He had a very nice romantic dinner for them. It was really sweet. And he tried again to be, you know, Mr. Champagne Vinny. He opened a bottle of champagne and it didn't go everywhere this time. And Brie was telling him how she didn't feel like they had any terrible moments. Is everyone delusional? Vincent asked Brianna if she felt married, and she started to hesitate, and then she said that the marriage doesn't feel like an obligation. She likes spending time with him. Vincent answered by saying he's glad that she has not yet run away. I'm not sure what that really means. I feel like Vincent has a side that he's not really showing her. I was really rooting for them, but something about their interactions gives me cause for pause. But I do hope that they do make it. They do seem to genuinely want to be with each other. And that's a wrap. Comment below and let me know what you thought about tonight's episode. Be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.